Good morning, Rabbi Westside. Leilu Nishmas Chaim Oren, Yosef Mordechai. Check this out. Zeitnis kein Scheute, man lernt Seite. Gewaltige stuff if you speak Yiddish. Don't be a Scheute, we're learning Seite. This, Rabbi Westside wins the ad of the year for the Siyumim. This is in Toronto. Haircuts and wine. Nazir Siyum. MDY Toronto. Yishkoya Chevra. Check it out. So last night, Doilam was at the one and only Reb Menachem Matez's son's wedding. And here's the Chevra. He's the one sitting right next to me, if you're wondering who it is. I have a tremendous hakaras hatov. I think we all do. First of all, he was my Bal Kaira for 9.5 years since I moved to Yisroel, almost every week. And also, he filled in for Shiurim before, in Chaniche, before Brachas, together with Reb Noam Fix. And he corrects me very often during Shir. So, tremendous hakaras hatov, and it was a beautiful simcha. Oh, this is something very special. If you recall, just I don't know, a few weeks ago, I offered Mendy $10,000, $20,000, $20,000 to tzedakah if he got up and danced, and he refused. He's a very reserved person, so for him to do this means a lot. And this is the very, very first time he ever did something for status, and here it goes.
This is the first status that I'm ever putting on under the pressure of my good chaver, Eli Stefansky. Rabbi said we're starting a new Masechta. Guys, get into it. Start the new Masechta Saita. It's Yishmak. It's easy. It will definitely give you the iris that you can't imagine. It starts with this and it's going to end by Shavuos time. This is the way to get to Yom Tov. This is the way to get to Shavuot. 49 days of real learning Torah. That is the real goal of Shavuos.
Donnie, fine. Unbelievable job you did on the camera. How you zoomed in, zoomed out. Unbelievable. I know. Join DafYomi.com. Rabbi say it's not too late. It's really not too late. If you don't have a Gemara, go out and buy one and give it to your friend. If you can't afford it, I'll reimburse you. Buy 10 Gemaras. Set up a stand. I'll reimburse you. Hi, Rebelli. Tonight was an amazing MDY brotherhood moment here in Boston. Our MDY brother, Elliot Mattingly, and his wife just lost their son, Chaim Oren ben Eliyahu. The boy did MDY rally. It's the 1-year-old that was just nifter. Officially got in touch with the Rabbi Hanan Weiner, who enlisted others of the Boston MDY Chevra, including myself and Nachum Shansky, along with Fischel, who flew in and out tonight. Fischel flew into Boston. Shlomi Rosenberg from Monsey, unbelievable tzaddik, behind the scene guys that does a tremendous, I'm not supposed to say this, I'm not going to say how much he does for MDY every day. Seth Hellman, picture attached, from BU. Everybody knows Seth Hellman. He used to be on Zoom every day. Now once in a while he's on there. And Moshe Mordechai Weiner. And we just returned from having made a minyan at the Shiva house. In honor of Chaim Oren, we plan on making a siyum mishnayis. The shloshim is cut short by Pesach, but that won't stop us from making a siyum in 30 days. Please send a link to the brotherhood. Here it is. We're in awe of what this brotherhood can accomplish with Hashem's help. Tiskul mitzvahs. May we only know b'suras tovas. Ben Bressel, MDY, Boston. Unbelievable. Dear Rebelli, I'll be working at KLY Pesach sale on Wednesday. This is Elimelech Goldberg. Again, I'm getting to know who he is. Be great opportunity to enroll new guys to the Daf. If we can get an advertisement board and a few Gemaras, where do I get them from? Tomer, we have any advertisement boards for him? I have some. I bought Gemaras myself yesterday. I could give him mine, or whatever. You could give them to him. The MDY status clips WhatsApp group reached 500 members. They're very excited about it. 500, that's where you get different clips and different things to put on your status. I want to say Shalom Aleichem. What's your name, Tzaddik, from England?
Betzalel God Katz.
Betzalel God Katz. Yeah. And you're the brother of?
Chaim Aaron Katz.
Chaim Aaron Katz. Shalom Aleichem. Okay, shout out. Givaldik. Who else do we have? What's your name? Oh, you're. I know. Oh, Stroll Helper. Back. You know, we have a problem with the lock here. No one will talk to you. We were waiting for months for you. Welcome back. Bernard Jacobson, caught red-handed. Ashri Misha Nitfas al Divrei Torah, caught red-handed. Yosef Chaim Fletcher doing Chazara of Masechtas Beitza on a trip to Reb Shaila Kristir. Zechus Reb Shaila ben Moshe and MDY, kind regards. And I want to tell you, yesterday I forgot to say, somebody, I don't know who it is, Avi will probably remind me, maybe it was anonymous. Somebody donated $200 to the Arvei Psachim Initiative, whoever won the raffle yesterday, $200. And I was very touched by this. It's in Zechus of Yossi Klein, who changed my life. That's what the guy said. Yossi Klein with the Gemara Initiative changed his life. One person. So you too, Shalom Aleichem. What's your name? How you doing? What's your name? Josh from? Tina. And?
William Yudela.
I don't expect it. Yeah. From?
Modi'in and Paramus.
Modi'in and Paramus. Shalom Aleichem, guys. Who else? You guys are... Okay. Anybody else that's hiding? Okay, great. So here goes. Today's winner. Sponsored by Moshe Zaret. $100 today. You could change somebody's life by getting them a Gemara, getting into learning. The guy's Makar Toiv at the Yossi Klein. It's unbelievable. CG, whoever you are, SG, just won $100. You ready? That's SD.
Oh, SD.
Whatever. Ask Tomer. Tomer already sent him his... All right. The Koilo, anonymous from Lakewood. The Siyum. When's the Siyum here in Mabet Shemesh? Wednesday. MDYCM.com. This Wednesday. It was supposed to be tonight. But tonight is Doron Kornbluth's son's wedding. And we didn't want to have a conflict. And I'm flying out tonight. So during the wedding, Be'ezer Hashem, whoever is not going to the wedding, I'm giving a shiur right here. We don't expect a lot of people, and you don't feel, huh? I'm so I have to pack also. Shiur at the wedding. And Doron Kornbluth is sponsoring his Parnas Hayoim for today, the Zechus of a beautiful, long-lasting, happy marriage. 9 o'clock tonight in the Beis Medrash, if I'm prepared. If not, 10 o'clock. The Koilo. Reuven Klein, in honor of my daughter Eliza becoming a Kala to Tzvi Chaim Nadov from Toronto. Beautiful, one simcha to the next. The Masechta sponsored by Maaser. The second sponsor of the Masechta is Leilu Nishmas Chaim Elefant by Anon Ymous. The Paras HaChodesh Landy Family, Leilu Nishmas Yisroel Chaim and Yishai. The Paras HaChodesh Leilu Nishmas Chaim Elefant, Chaim ben Ya'akov Shmuel Zechariah Levrach by his Westside friends. Paras HaChodesh Leilu Nishmas Zechariah ben Moshe. Paras HaChodesh MDY Family, Leilu Nishmas Chaim Oren, Zechariah Levrach ben Yibal Chaim Eliyahu, Chaim Oren, sometimes known as Charlie, was Elliot Mattingly's young son, just turned 1, was Nifter Thursday in Boston. The week by Vladislav Zakharov in the Zechut that I graduate this May. Didn't he sponsor once that he should get into school or something?
No, his studies.
He was doing what? He was doing research and now he wants to graduate. We can't help him out that much, could we? Happy birthday to Asher Zelig Farkovits. May today's learning be a zechus for him and the whole family. Mommy, Daddy, Yisroel Dov Farkovits. Mattisyahu, Leilu Nishmas Felix Adler, Yisroel ben Ribnosan. Day, Alan and Shprintzy Gross in memory of my grandfather's 93rd yard site. Zechus Nishmas Tzvi Hirsch ben Binyamin Isaac. Refuah Shlema for Leah Chasio Bas Gittel. And finally, Yitzi Hollander for successful surgery for his wife, Nomi Elana Bas Chai Dvora. And the art of the month for complete refuah for Chaim Tzvi ben Leah. All right, so Yishkoach Moshe Zaret. And one last thing, I found out, we had an email, I think it was, I forgot, maybe Gershi Rose or something, that according to the Shulchan Aruch, you don't go by weight, you go by volume. So I found out, no, he's right that you go by volume, but we know what the weight and the volume is, and we base it on weight. We know what volume is today. How everybody makes matzah the same way, the same amount of water and flour. So now that we know the density, we know what the weight is to the volume. So some matzahs are very thin but very large, and some are thicker. Now we can go by weight, right, Rabbi Schoenberg? Okay. All right, Rabbi Yisai, we have a beautiful sugya today, as usual. We are holding Samach Gimel Amud Beis 4 lines before the end. Don't forget to bring your friends. Don't forget to donate Gemaras. Don't forget your Siyumim. Oh, and I forgot to put the Siyum. It was very similar to the one in Manchester, the Siyum in New York. Maybe you could throw that on the screen. It's a yellow. I don't know where it is, but in New York, they're doing a Siyum in Brooklyn, and here are the details. That way, here. Okay, good. Zakti Gemara, Ketze Yarat. Check this out. Today we're learning a sugya of what? Burn child. Safa Eina Mitama Le'inyan Sheretz. So we're talking about a floating sheretz. So here's your chart of shrotzim, the Shmoyne shrotzim. Anything smaller than this is not mitama. Anything that's not in this chart is not mitama unless it's a larger animal. So now you have a floating sheretz. Desanya Sofik Tumat Safa. Gershon. Sofik Tumat Safa Bein Bekalim Bein Bekarka Tahira. A floating sheretz. So we should have here floating sheretz. So whether or not this is a sheretz, that's for you to decide. A lizard is the main sheretz, so let's just call this a very large lizard. So what we have here is an interesting halacha, that if you have a floater, a sheretz who's a floater, and we're not talking about tumas meis, we're talking about tumas sheretz specifically, if it floats, then if you have a suffix, if somebody touched it or didn't touch it, we're going to go lekula. Suffix tuma. So tzafa eina metameli in sheretz. The sanya suffix tuma tzafa bein bekalim bein bekarka tahira. The Tanna Kamma says it doesn't matter where it's floating. If the water is in a handmade vessel or if the water is naturally there, it's a floater. We go lekula. What would be the halacha Rabbi if I asked you just like logically speaking? It's not floating, it's floating, but somebody's holding on to the tail of the lizard. Is it considered floating or not floating? What does the Olam say? Huh? Shouldn't be floating. Says Tais it's not floating, it's considered stationary. Munach, the human being that holds on to it, creates a non-floating object. Talking about floating, when a person drowns, Rahman al-Islam, I think the best advice would be to just not do anything. Just try to float. In other words, give yourself up to Hashem. Let Hashem take care of you. Because as soon as you start, and I've seen this with my own eyes, people that panic and they try to swim and they don't know what they're doing, that's when they start drowning. So you try too much to do for yourself, you get yourself into tsaros. If you give yourself up, you say, Hashem, help me out. I'm not going to do anything. You save me. Usually, you can survive like that. Sof. Reb Shimon Oimer bekalim tmeya bekarka tahira. So Reb Shimon makes a distinction. Yeah, there is a concept of tuma, of tzafa, of a floating tuma, but there's a difference whether it's in a vessel or in the karka. My time in the Tanna Kamma, why does he say that it's okay even if the tum is floating in a kli? So you look at the pasuk, Al Tashaksis Nafshay Seichem, B'chol Hasheretz Hasheretz, V'loisetamu bohem, V'nitmeisim bam. If you just read the pasuk, you might think that this is a pasuk about tumah, not to touch a sheretz. This is actually a pasuk that tells you don't eat a sheretz. If you eat a sheretz, it's disgusting. It's sheket. It's what's the word in English? Abomination. It's an abomination. You make yourself tamei, not in the physical sense of tumah that you have to go to the mikvah, but you're making your body tamei. It might have a lifelong effect on you. This sheretz. But it says in the pasuk, "B'chol hasheretz hasheretz." What do we see from these words, "B'chol hasheretz hasheretz"? That wherever the sheretz is, no matter what, it could be in the water, it could be out of the water. He's a sheretz. Kol makom shu sheretz uchsiv ala aretz. But then it says in this pasuk, "Dafka a sheretz hasheretz ala aretz." So which one is it? Is it a flying lizard or only one that walks on the ground? Is it a swimming lizard or only one on the ground? Which one is it? Okay, it's that. Vadi magoy tame. If you touch the sheretz, so no matter where it is, any place, anywhere, call a sheretz, anywhere, tame. Sofik magoy tahar. But if it's in the water, then a suffix becomes tar. This is how we're learning it. Because we have a contradiction, we have to make a distinction between water and the ground, and we say that water is a special halacha of a floater when it comes to suffix. Reb Shimon my time, and what does Reb Shimon, how does he argue? Omar ula ksiv ach mayon. But a spring. So the pasuk says ach mayon ubar mikveh mayim yiyatar, and over here also we have some sort of a contradiction. If there's a spring water, tar. V'negeya b'nivlasam yitma. You touch it, it becomes tamei. So which one is it? Okay, it's that safa b'kelim tamei b'karka tahar. So he learns the difference is if it's in a mayon, if it's in a spring, then it's tar. But if it's not in a spring, it's in the karka, then it's tamei. A tar. As a side point, I mentioned this a number of times, but I'm always mispelled from this thing, that usually when something gets cold, it shrinks. Yeah? Besides water. Water expands, and there's a reason. If water would shrink, then it would sink. And if it would sink, the ice on top of the water would sink and it'd keep on sinking, it'd kill all the fish, and there would be major problems with flooding and things like that. Probably it would wipe us out. But because it expands and it keeps a layer on top, it keeps the fish, it's tzaf, it floats, and it keeps the fish alive, it keeps us alive. Tarabanan, yeah, that's where we are. Tarabanan, kolanin talim vanigrorim, sveikum tame. So here we have a sheretz that's being pulled. There's a nigrar. I like the way he did his tongue. He's schlepping a sheretz. Now, if you don't know if while he's pulling this sheretz, somebody touched it or not, you have a suffix. So, it's, huh?
Don't use the N word here, please.
He didn't take his medicine correctly.
Wow. Next time we have one of those back and forths, you just put that line in, and then the other will understand exactly why I said and how I said. Okay. By the way, you should be paying for Yosef's overtime. Every day is a 30-minute editing session that he does because of you. So I didn't even notice. You're back. It's included. It's included. That last race, it was included. Yeah. Okay. Okay, we need to talk. Yeah. I have plenty of time today. If you need to talk, let's do it today. I have a very corny joke, but because this was my favorite joke as a child, I have no idea why. I'm looking back. It's like I have no clue. I'll share it with you. There was an old man at a stoplight. He was on his motorcycle. And a younger guy pulled up with like one of those fancier ninjas. And he goes to him like this, you want to race? And the old man is, nah. And as soon as the light turns green, the young guy takes off. And he looks in his rearview mirror and he sees the old man is right there with him. So he floors it, he puts in the next gear and he goes, he's doing 100. He looks behind, the guy's right there. And the guy's like, hey, he's screaming something to him. So he's like, he thinks he's messing with him. So he goes even quicker. As quick as he goes, this guy's right with him. Finally, they get to the red light, and he says, the old man's still screaming. He says, what? He says, my suspenders are stuck to your motorcycle. Okay. Anyway, it's not that funny. As a 5-year-old, it was great. Anyway, so this is a Negro. He's stuck. He's being schlepped and dragged. Sveiken Tame. Tame. Why? Mipnei Shem Kimunachim. So you have here a suffix tuma birshus hayachid, and we consider it as if it's stationary. Banizrakin, if you have something like this, it's thrown, Sveikum Tahar. Huh? Yeah, right. I don't know if does he bring it? I don't think it's from here, but he just says straight out that the typhus is considered shiyad adam typhus ba enkan din tuma tzafa. I guess maybe, yeah. I hear. It's not moving, it's stationary. Hanizrakim, Sveikum Tar. So even though, how did it become airborne? How's it flying? It took flight from a human being. It's from his kayach. No, we consider it tahar. Chutz min kazayis min ameis. So when it comes to a dead person, we don't learn these halachas from a sheretz. And if there's a piece of kazayis of a dead person that went flying over someone, and he's not sure if it's literally over him or slightly next to him, whether or not he's tameh, because if that piece, the kazayis, flew over him, that would be what? Oil. So we have to be machmer. V'amayel al pnei tuma, and the same thing, if somebody threw you over a piece, you're tahar, and you go over the piece, and you're not exactly sure if you went over it, not over it. V'chol davar shemetame milamala kilamata. And anything, meaning, and as the Gemara is going to say, a zava, nida yeledes, these are all people. So here's a guy that has a tumas nida on him. So he's metama, if he sits on top, everything below him, everything that upholds him. It doesn't matter how many levels, everything becomes tamei all the way down to the bottom. And if he was underneath the mattress, he'd be metama all the mattresses all the way up. Lasuy zava. That's a boy. A boy could be tamei nida if he touched the nida. Everybody could be tumas nida. Boy, a boy, okay. But there's also tumas of if the mattress becomes a what do you call it, a mishkav, which this is, so then it becomes. Then I think it creates tumah also. The mattress becomes nida, and it makes tumah. I don't know. You saying that? I don't know. Okay. Lasui zava. Boy ram bar chama. Meis bikli v'tzaf. So now we have very, very interesting questions. They're basically building one upon the other, and it goes like that. If we have tumah that's floating, we said we're going to be mekel. Now, what about meis bikli, bikli tzaf, agabi mayim mau? So, do we say, here we go, here's a picture. We have a vessel and a mace in the vessel. Let's not call it a boat. I don't like the boat so much. Would have told him not to do it like that. But here's the question. Is he in a different end? Is he floating or not floating? How do you view this dead person? Is he floating on the water, or no, he's stationary on an object that's floating in the water? It's a big nafkamina. If he's a floater, then the tuma is lekula. But if he's not, then it's lechumra. Basar kli has linon, or basar mace has linon. Do we go after the mace? Do we look at it as he's a mace or he's a kli? Kazais ba'oil. When we throw it. Oil and mal, yeah. But over here you have a mace. Do we look at the mace? Is he a floater? And we're going to go lekula. We don't know if you touched that dead person in the water as he was floating, similar to a sheretz. Here's the thing: a sheretz. Let's just go. I'll take a step back because you asked the question. A sheretz doesn't have oil. He's not metame ba'oil, so you can't learn this halacha from a sheretz. But you could learn other tumas from a sheretz in terms of what the tumas maga applies to sheretz, so you can apply that to a mace as well. Same question as a sheretz. Same exact question. Sheretz, the Gemara just talks about a mace. You're right. It doesn't mean only a mace. Anything. Let's pretend that there's a lizard in this box. Okay, so there's a box with a lizard. Is the lizard on the water, or is the box on the water and the lizard is on the box? So the lizard is stationary. Or no, maybe it's a floater. Huh? He says he switches it only to sheretz. Interesting. Okay. I hear. Okay, so if you tell me that no, he's not considered a floater. Meisal gabi sheretz mahu. What about this case? You have a dead person on top of a sheretz. So now the Gemara just wants to know, is it considered one? Because they're both tamei. So it's as if, so you have one object, one piece of tumah, so to speak, floating on the water. Or no, maybe you can make a distinction between the two because they're different. Meisal gabi sheretz mahu, given the high tumas erev, the high tumas shiva, the sheretz only lasts for one day. Like if a person touches sheretz today, he goes to the mikveh today and it becomes tar at night. But the dead person is a much more severe tumah, kiman, the machta tumah, b'kli damya. So it's as if the mace is sitting inside a vessel called a sheretz vessel. Or maybe no, we just look at it as one thick tumah, they're all the same. And if you're going to say that it's in a kli, so it's tamei, v'tamei vadai, sheretz agab in a vela. So over here you have two tumas that last the same amount. Here, if you want to see what it looks like, you have a sheretz on top of an avela, and the avela only lasts for one day. The sheretz only lasts for one day. So avela, even the tarvai tumas erevinun, tumas smichtahi, it's one tuma. We consider them one. Oidilma, haikazais vaikadasha. Guess what the answer is going to be to all these questions, Rabbi Yisai? Teiko. This is typical Teiko. These are Dakastika questions. And perhaps the tumas are different because a sheretz is b'kadasha. You become tummy touching a small piece like the size of a lentil. And a mace, you need more. You need a kizayis. So then, sheretz agabi sheretz ma'u. What about two sherotzim that are on top of each other? Hai vadai chachiruninu. Over here, they're both till the night. They're both b'kadasha. They're both the same. Maybe they're two separate things. They're two separate entities, even though they're the same tumah. Maybe we have to consider it as if it's inside a boat, inside a vessel. We're going and going. Here's a nevela that got dissolved a little bit. Do we view it as fluid? At the end of the day, it's food. Similar shaila remind me of a shaila that I heard once. What about ice cream? I don't want to ruin anybody's appetite. It's like the guy that said this a while ago, maybe in Pesachim I said it. I was in a course and the guy claimed that he could change anybody's fear or anything. And there was a Sephardi guy that loved Coke and he wanted to stop drinking Coke. He had like an obsession with Coke. He just drink the drink. He just drink a lot of Coca-Cola. And he said, I want you to stop. And he refused. Every class, he said, I could do it, but I'm not going to do it for you. I can't, I'm not doing it now in front of everyone. And every class. So finally one day, I think Mary Ken is with us. He says, okay, fine, I'll do it. He says, tell me the thing you hate the most. Now he's Sephardi. He says, I hate gefilte fish the most. Can't stand gefilte fish. So in front of the whole class, he said, listen, this Coke, he did a whole thing. This, you see, picture a nice Coca-Cola dripping. It's hot outside and it's cold. Yeah, you got it. Okay. Now you have to picture gefilte fish and you have to infuse the two. And he made a whole thing. But after 5 minutes, the guy says, he brought him a Coke. He says, no, I can't drink Coke. And like a month later, the guy still didn't drink Coke. But I think a few months later, he got back into it. But
you saw me eating gefilte fish.
No, I just thought about it now because I'm telling you now halacha about ice cream, and we're talking about a nevela sheni moicha all in one. Is this nevela sheni moicha like ice cream? Anyway, make that association. You won't eat ice cream for the rest of your life. The ice cream, do we view it as a liquid or do we view it as a solid? It's a big shiloh because if you view it as a liquid, then you have to eat a revius within 4 minutes, whatever the shear is. And so what bracha do you make a bracha achrona? You don't make a bracha achrona. A whole shiloh, and they say at the end, just like eat part of the cone or eat something else that's shahakal, because it's a big it's one of these things that since it melts, maybe it's a liquid, maybe it's a solid. Okay, and that's just reminded me something similar over here. Do we view this disintegrating animal as a liquid? Because look at it, it's kind of in a liquid form, but it came from a solid form. What do we do here? And if you say that this is a piece of food, how do we view shichva zera? It's a little bit thicker than water. Is that food? Is that solid? Is it liquid? If you think about it, other bodily fluids, they might come into the body one way. Let's say ktanim, urine. You drink something, so the body processes it and it comes out. But you put one thing in it basically came out the same form. Shichva zera was formed within the body as a new bria, so maybe it's considered a solid, like the body. Now here we have another type of liquid which is thicker than water because you add the ashes of the paraduma, so maybe this is not a real liquid, it's more of a solid. And these mechatos, which are thicker, on the other hand, mechatos is tamei, right? It makes the person that's tamei tar, but you yourself, if you touch it, you become tamei. So mechatos is tamei. So maybe if you put something like a sheretz on top of that, it's tamei and tamei. We go back to the question we had before: one tumah on top of another tumah. Do you consider 1, 2? And here's a very interesting lashon special from Masechtas Nazir: lo yadinan. We don't know. Teiku. Instead of your typical teiku, lo yadinan teiku. Okay, Daf Samach Daled Amud Beis. Sponsored for that slocha of Ayileb ben Eliza Simcha Sheina Masha and Eliza Simcha Sheina Masha. Bad bracha la'atzlacha for the Maggid Shir and the members of the HBA group and their families. Amen. Omer of Amnumna Nazir v'oisa Pesach. V'oisa Pesach. So we can't say these words without mentioning that it's almost Pesach. And if you don't know yet, I'm Be'ez Hashem flying out tonight if the airport is open. It is. I think Avi is on his way back or got back. I know people. Did Mendy? Mendy's not here. He almost missed. He was talking about missing his flight last night. Okay. So one thing that I'm asking the Olam and telling the Olam is because it's something that I personally am not very good at, and I don't think I have the right amount of time. So for today, I have to do 2 shiurim. Erev Pesach, I have to give 3 shiurim. And the list goes on. So I'm not planning on having a lot of time to prepare for the Seder. So I'm asking you guys, do it for me, have me in mind. But it's a very, very important thing. V'oisa Pesach. Everybody has to take upon themselves to prepare something today. Now, what about your Agada? I was just thinking about it. It's coming out? Not this Pesach. But it's finished, kind of. No one worked the whole year on making Agada, and it's finished, but Be'ez Hashem next Pesach. Okay. We'll worry about it then. Mustama, why not? So, the idea is just bekitzer nimros because we're running out of time. There's a mitzvah of Sipur Yitzias Mitzrayim on the basic level. You tell your family, forget the Haggadah for a second. You close the Haggadah and you tell your family about the fact that we were slaves in Mitzrayim and the terrible shibud that we had and how terrible it was for us and how Kadosh Baruch Hu took us out b'neis and all the way to Matan Torah. And the more you discuss and the more you describe the different makkos of Dam, Tzvardeya, and how the Goyim they didn't have, and we sold them the blood and anything that's part of Tzibur Zion, that's what you should prepare. Not so much, I'm not talking about the questions and answers and why does that God say this word and it seems a little extra and the Rambam and the Ramosha Feinstein said, no, I'm talking about the basic Sipur Yitzias Mitzrayim, prepare it well and have me in mind. I'm not complaining be'emes because I was complaining about Masechta Shkolim when I had to give 3 shiurim in Shkolim, my favorite Masechta, Erev Pesach. I didn't get to shave, I didn't get to take a shower. I came to the Seder, I was falling asleep the entire Seder and I had nothing to say. It was for me a bad experience. Be'ez Hashem this year it's not going to be like that because Masechta Soita is mamish geshmak. Omer Avuna Nazav Oisa Pesach Shaholchu. So bekever at Tahim. So we got to show this one more time. Reb Nachman Seltzer told me he really liked this one. Did you miss it? You blink, you miss. Here you go. Here's a guy skiing. Avalanche kills him. Comes lit. Jumps right over him. raises his hands. He won the award of jumping over a dead person, and now he's tummy. We said yesterday that there's 3 conditions in order for this special halacha called Tumas HaTahaim. Rabbi, I'm serious. Think about it. In a year from now, somebody's going to ask you, what's Tumas HaTahaim? You ever heard of it? Yes, I heard of it. I didn't learn it in yeshiva, but I heard about it. I mean, I know it 100%, but I know what it is. It's something I know. And these are the 3 conditions. And I asked somebody yesterday at the wedding, what are the 3 conditions? And when I got to number, he didn't know so well. He was telling me the thing. He was showing me that he knows the whole daf by heart, even though it doesn't come to shir anymore. So I said, okay, but what are the 3 conditions? And then by condition number 3, I got stuck. And then, I'm showing this for a reason. And then I remembered, and I told Noam, he was sitting next to me, I said, what are the 3 conditions? And I said, you know how I remembered the 3rd one? I went back to Yoshi's drawing. The visual helped me, and I did this in my head. Here it is. Condition number 1, the body is buried somewhere deep and nobody knows about it. Condition number 2, it happened after he shaved his head. You see, lit is shaved. The idea is after you shave his head. And 3rd, he has to be completely tar, green around him. Huh? No, from everything, even from a sheretz. We'll argue about it afterwards. I say from everything. Okay, so here we go again. Now you have a Nazir that we discussed, and also we discussed the Pesach. The guy already did his carbon Pesach. He's done. But you have a shpan, the people next to you. It's on, they figured out that later, the guy went through the whole process. He figured out that on the 7th day of Tahara, the Nazir became Tameh. He went, he waited 7 days, got his shave and everything. On the 7th day, he figured out that he was Tameh. Tahirim, the tar. My taima, the loyalima tumas hatahim lemistar. This tuma that's so deep and comes with these conditions, since nobody knew about this tuma at all, tar. Masav Rava. So now the Gemara is going to explain a little bit more. We don't have all the details. What's going on here? It says in our Mishnah, Yared l'tar b'tumas hameis tamei. A guy goes into the mikvah to get rid of his tuma. Tamei. Shecheskas tamei. Over there, we don't have tumas hatahim. Why? Because he goes into the mikvah knowing that he's tamei. So the fact that he's tamei, we say, okay, he remains tamei. He has a chazaka still, tar. But if he goes in not being tamei, he goes in b'chazaka that he's tar, and now he has this tumas hatahim business, tar. So you see that you could become tamei even on the 7th day, says Rava. So let me explain, he says. You're right, if it's before he took a haircut, then he's tamei. So if he comes in tamei, we're going to say he remains tamei. But I'm talking about that it's after all these things, he's done. He's just what? He's missing a little bit of Herav Shemesh. He's missing that the sun didn't go down, but he followed all the procedures. He got his haircut, he went to the mikvah, he's after that. And now he sees this tumas hatahim. They told him, hey, so we just found a body that nobody ever knew about. Tar. The same thing would apply that if a person brought his carbon Pesach and he has everything going from all the steps were taken, anything he could do. In other words, he got hazah, he got the tefillah, everything was good. And now he finds out that he's tamei. Then he's not tamei. But the bottom line is, so check this out just one more time. We got to get this klar, that if anybody asks the MDY or what a tful yoim is, he'll know in a second what a tful yoim is. It's a person who was tamei, went to the mikvah, and he's waiting. What is he waiting for? For nightfall. Once it's nightfall, he turns green, he becomes tar. The night gives it that final push. So he's in between situation, right? We said if he touches chulin, we're not going to go into the whole thing. If he touches chulin, it's tar, but if he touches truma, the truma becomes puzzle. Fine, that's the next chart. Why do you consider this Nazir and this Isa Pesach? Why do you consider him completely tar? Whoa.
Because they're distinguishing now between Osir Pesach and Nazir. Nazir is Tameh and Osir Pesach is Tar.
Where do you see that? Hold on. No. We said it's after Tiglachas. After Tiglachas.
I'm going to do if you're not done. You're going to me when it's
After Tiglachas, everything he could do is done. He's just waiting for the sun to go down. He's tar. But why is he tar? He still has one more step called Harav Shemesh. Amar lei shimshim meila arva. That's not considered a step. Anything that's humanly possible, he did. He got the sprinkling. He went into the mikveh. He did whatever he could do. Now he's waiting for Hashem to make the sun go down. That's not his thing. We'll talk afterwards. Let's go. Whatever it is. You understand the point. The point is we have a case with a Harav Shemesh. Is that a problem, not a problem? Rava says it's not a problem. Says the Gemara, Abaya Hadarbe. Even Abaya took it back. If I could show you, says the Gemara, that Abaya used these exact same words as Rava, that Shimsha Memela Arva, that the sun goes down on its own, then it's a very good sign that Abaya regretted what he said. So let me just tell you real quickly what's going on. It's a very, very simple sugya. When a woman gives birth, and we're going to have this in a few weeks in Tazria, a woman gives birth. It depends what she gives birth to. If she gives birth to a boy or a girl. So let's say she gave birth to a girl. The first 14 days after her birth, she's tmeya. Midaraisa, I'm talking about midaraisa, not what we do today. Tame. And then she gets 66 freebies. 66 days of tahara, no matter what. She's 100% tar to everybody, to her husband. Even if she sees dam, nothing. We ignore everything. She's 100% tar. For a boy, it's very different. It's 7 days of tumah and 33 days of tahara. Like, she only suffers for 7 days of tumah. We only reward her, so to speak, with another 33 days. But a girl who she suffers for double, she gets double the tahara days. She gets 66 versus 33. Okay. So, she goes to the mikvah on day 14. Right? That's when she could go to the mikvah. Midaraisa, she's only tamei for 14 days. But check this out. For 66 days of tahara, she's in a condition of tful yom. You see how I put tful yom underneath there? Tful yom, meaning she could eat Maaser Sheni, she could do all these things, but she cannot, when it comes to truma, she has to be careful. She's not 100% tar until what? Day 81, when she could bring her carbon. The Torah calls it Milois. She has to bring her korbanos on day 81. So until day 81, it's really 80 days. The following day, on day 81, she's completely tar. But it takes a long time. 66 days, she's in suspense over here, called it full yom. Interesting story happened over here. Again, don't ask me questions how it's possible, not possible. This is a theoretical question. What happens? Here, Avi? Because this is for doctor to see if this is negah. A woman gave birth to a girl on day 1. And then on day 14, let's say, she's already tar. She became pregnant again. If she miscarried 40 days later, Taisa says on day 64, not exactly sure why it says 64, not 54. Let's call it 64, that Taisa knows better. Sorry, it's not. This is the other case where she gave birth on or after day 81. Okay? I should take out that other 81 in the bottom. So she didn't bring her carbon yet because you only bring a carbon on day 81. She miscarried on day 82, 83, 84, 85. Could she use that carbon that she was going to bring for the baby she had on day 1 for her second miscarriage? The second birth, so to speak? No. Why? Because it happened after the Melais, or on the Melais. So, as you see, she waits, the 81 is good. She has to wait another 81 days from the time she miscarries. She has the 14 days, she gave birth to a baby girl, miscarried a baby girl, 14 days of Tumah, 66 days of Tahara. On day 81, she brings 2 korbanos, because you can't bring a carbon when you're Tameh. So she waits the full 81 days, brings the carbon she had to bring for baby number 1, who's still alive, and baby number 2, that's unfortunately, says the Gemara now. Here's another case, Rabbi say. What if she gave birth on day 1 to a girl? She got pregnant again on day 14, and she had a miscarriage before the Malais. Okay? 40 days later, at least 40 days later, she had a miscarriage. So she had 2 births there. You see how day 81 is in the middle? She miscarried on day 64. So she had 1 miscarriage before the Malais. And then she had a 3rd birth/miscarriage after day 81, which is 64 days from day 81. She had another miscarriage. So now you're talking about 3 korbanos. She owes 3 korbanos. How many korbanos could she get away with? 1, or she needs at least 2? And the answer is 1. Why? Because she was always tmeya, she was always within a malais, one to the other. A new malais starts from her miscarriage, from where it says 64, that's where a whole new malais starts. So now she owes another carbon. One carbon can pater everything. Says Abaya. Let's see it inside. We have to do this because I'm leaving soon. Now goes easy. If she gave birth for a second time on the 81st day, she has to bring Tavi another carbon. But if she miscarried with it before the 81st day, Tavi, 1 carbon is enough for everything. Okay, that's great because she gave birth before day 81. Maybe she has to bring another carbon for anything that happens after day 81. In other words, the second birth is within the malais. It's a new malais. There's a new count. From the second birth, where it says 64, we start the count all over again, 81 days. So since she didn't bring a carbon, so anything that she owes until that point, she can't bring a carbon. Why can't she bring a carbon? Because she's tummy the entire time. So since she couldn't bring the carbon, so any carbon that she owes in that whole period, she brings 1. That's enough. It's considered like part of the first birth, let's say. Ask the Gemara. So in the case, the first case. Here, let me just go back. This case right over here. No. Right here. This case where she gave birth on day 81. Why does she have to bring 2 korbanos like this chart says? You have to bring 2 korbanos. Her second birth was on day 81. But at the end of the day, there was no sunset. And if there's no sunset, she couldn't bring the carbon. And if you can't bring a carbon, we just said, you're forced not to bring a carbon. Why? Because you're tameh. So you bring 1 carbon for everything. Over here also she's forced because she cannot bring a carbon because it's not nighttime. So she should only have to bring 1. When she can't go for whatever reason, fine. But over here, we're just waiting for the sun to go down and it has nothing to do with her. It's not in her hands. It's as if it already happened. And therefore, what? Abaya says, Mefurish, Shimshim Mamela Arva. He's Maida to Rava, Westside. Have a wonderful day. And tonight at 9 o'clock, Be'ezer Hashem.